Thanks, Kevin. And the slides will be made available on the wiki so people will be able to get to the plugin that way. And one caveat, for those of you that attended our the virtual component of the member forum, it was a training on the new digital objects functionality as of 3.4. If you weren't able to attend that, a recording will be made available soon. But this presentation was a great compliment to that, Kevin, so thanks. Worked out well. All right, so next up, we have Marissa Bischoff from Brigham Young University presenting Converting ArchivesSpace Data into Dublin Core for Use in a Digital Asset Management System. Marissa is the Digital Initiative Supervisor at the Brigham Young University BYU Library. The digital lab at BYU uses a homegrown plugin in ArchivesSpace to capture and format finding aid metadata into Dublin Core. This is used in loading a text file that accompanies uploads to BYU's digital asset management system, ContentDM. The plugin uses a large set of logical rules to convert various values in the finding aid into the 64 fields of Dublin Core metadata BYU uses in their schema. Then it utilizes the EXIF tool and some scripts to gather item-level technical metadata for every image for use in the loading text file. It also performs a rudimentary quality control to check that preservation and access copies match and are named correctly. This plugin turned a manual copy and paste process that used to take 20 minutes into a 30-second automation and has significantly reduced errors. So Marissa.
Thanks for that. I also should have edited it. I feel like that's my presentation. So this is a little bit, I feel like a nice lead-in from Kevin, because I feel like it's kind of the opposite. It's us harvesting the metadata from ArchivesSpace to use in ContentDM. So I'm Marissa Bischoff. I work at BYU, and then a couple other people helped me with this. Nicole Lewis, who is our digital metadata librarian, and Lindsay Memory, who's over the digital labs, and they weren't able to be here today. So first, our application was named EZMA, and I think it's because we all loved Emperor's New Groove. Actually, we had like a contest with the student employees to see who could come up with the most clever name, and EZMA won. And it stands for Easy Metadata Application. So basically, it's a homegrown proper plugin in ArchivesSpace that captures and formats the finding aid metadata that's in ArchivesSpace into Dublin Core, and so that we can use that in our loading text file that accompanies our uploads to our digital asset management system, ContentDM. A little bit of background. I'm at Brigham Young University. We have about 30,000 students. It's primarily undergraduate. A little bit about the lab. Well, I supervise the digital lab, and then there's another supervisor, Abby, and we have about 15 to 20 student employees. And use this one. And our workflow is basically we are photographing images or scanning them, and then packaging the metadata to put it online. And then our throughput, so we use Internet Archive, and that's for our published materials, and then we spend about 60% of our time doing archival things, and we do about 100 compound objects to ContentDM per month. So we've used ContentDM for a very long time, since 2002. Like most digital libraries, our methods have evolved over time. The metadata used to be very boutique, with painstaking hand metadata creation, and each collection had different metadata fields, and so it was just really time-consuming. And also, each collection had different metadata fields. I think I said that. Then we pivoted to a larger production lab, and metadata is still the pinch point. It's a little bit of a bottleneck, but it's a lot better. So our process for metadata changed to be based off the MARC record and the finding aids, which had to be translated into Dublin Core for ContentDM. We standardized the metadata profile, which also saved a lot of time, so we could better utilize the existing metadata and make things more consistent and efficient. Along with this, we have a reformatting committee that allows all the stakeholders to talk about digital requests that we get in and the process for digitization. One of the best things that group did was set a standard for archival collections that the finding aid has to be completely done to the item or file level before we even start digitization. So the metadata is really robust by the time that it gets to us. That makes it so there is an upfront wait, but it clears the way so we're not just picking a few items within a collection to digitize, but doing an entire folder or series at a time. So it's much more cohesive and consistent. There were some problems before, which is why we made the change, because we name our digital files based on the call number. So the organization of the collection, the series, sub-series, item, where it is, that's how we name our files so that they match. And so if they were gonna later on do some reconstruction of the collection and change the metadata and organization, it would have downstream problems for us and ruin our file naming. So that was a really welcome change, and it paved the way that we needed a system to get this metadata and make things consistent and quick. So we started with Coma, and that was our content DM metadata application, and we used that with a homegrown finding aid system before we had ArchivesSpace. So this was a lab-built command line tool that translated the metadata from our finding aids into a text file. So it was great, but it didn't do all the things we wanted to, and it was really touchy. So there were lots of errors, and we had student employees made the code for this program, and they embedded this joke in for to haze the new students, I think. But if they touched a button wrong when they were compiling this text file, then this would show up. And terrified all of them. So the first thing the supervisor at the time said was, okay, we need a new program and we need to take that out. So we moved over to ArchivesSpace, and when we first moved, we didn't have a program, so we had to painstakingly create handmade text files from the ArchivesSpace metadata. So we used, just an Excel spreadsheet that was color-coded with where the student employees needed to get that metadata from, which area, and yeah, they would make all of them. So that meant a lot of problems because Content DM is really fussy, and if there's any problem with the text file, it will not upload. So it was not the best. So we spent our time quickly to come up with a rewrite document of Coma to make EZMA. Okay, and this is basically what EZMA is. It's a plugin that uses logical rules to convert various values in the finding aid into the 61 fields of Dublin Core metadata that we use in our schema. A cool thing I really like, because I'm on the digital side, is it utilizes the EXIF tool and some scripts to gather item-level technical metadata. So it pulls EXIF data from both the preservation TIFFs and from the access JPEGs that are made to put in the text file as well. So that's going to be like your camera make, model, application, the PPI, all that kind of stuff will be pulled in through EXIF. It also would make a kind of printout of all the call numbers in a collection, and it would make a call number, and it would match that to an identifier and create an identifier, which I will show in a second. So here's some of the code, if you can see it. Probably not. Okay, it was written in Ruby to work with ArchivesSpace. It was 2 developers worked on this, and it took them about a year, but that was during the pandemic, and they were working on other stuff too, so it didn't take too long. But generally speaking, it copies information from certain ArchivesSpace fields and maps those into the corresponding content DM fields. Some ArchivesSpace fields will get combined or split if there's not like a complete analog. So this top section of the code snippet combines different elements of the extents section into the content DM physical description field. And some more code. I know you guys love code. I don't actually. So it was also programmed to create a call number. So it would concatenate the series, sub-series, whatever kind of structural organization of the object, and put that together to create a call number for us. And then it would also, and that's what the code is showing here, it would create an identifier based on this by truncating each of those, like series would become S, and adding an underscore, and combining it to make an identifier with which we could name all our file names. So it really helped us with the file naming structure, and it created a way to QA between, or QC, quality control, between the call number and what we named it. And then all of that would happen, so the QC, make an identifier, plus the EXIF and all of the information from ArchivesSpace, and all of that would be combined into a tab delimited text file, which is what Content DM wants to put with our digital images. So some of the benefits to this, the plugin turned a manual copy and paste process that was like 20 minutes for each individual item into like a 30-second automation. So it was wonderful. And then it performed that rudimentary QC. So it checks that our preservation access copies match, that they're all named correctly, there aren't any like spaces or anything. And so that created fewer errors overall. And that's from the QC that it did, and also there's copy and paste problems there's human error with that. So there's a lot fewer with a program doing it. And then with any application, there's gonna be maintenance and iterations, and we hit a few snags. So here's just a few. Actually, the main ones. It's been a pretty good program. I've been pretty happy with it. We had to kind of put EZMA through its paces at the beginning and rewrite how it found the call number and piece it together. You all know that different collections are very unique, and they're going to be organized very differently. And so we had to make accommodations for this and teach the code with each new collection that we worked on how to find the call number again, basically. And now it runs really smoothly. But some examples, like the series were in different locations, or this collection had volumes, or like a 1A, and all those things kind of threw it for a loop. But as soon as we gave it extra rules, it was able to work well. There were also some hierarchy and inheritance issues. We have our inheritance rules set up in our ArchivesSpace instance that some metadata isn't entered into the like individual object, it's entered like overall. And one was the creator, so it didn't always copy that to the individual object when we wanted it to, and so we had to work through that. And I think sometimes we still are. And then also, the description and language, for some reason, kept combining into general notes. That was a fun one. Another interesting one was when we made a system change to something else, it affected this one. I think I have time to go into it. So we were making our derivative JPEGs through Photoshop, but we changed to ImageMagick, which made it a lot faster and automated how fast our derivative files were being made. But this program couldn't read the EXIF data from that because it only read EXIF-R or EXIF-Ruby, which is what this was coded in. And so we had to kind of change that application to match with the coding of this one. But that was, once we problem solved and figured that out, it wasn't too bad of a change. And then, this is one I'm excited about, batch EZMA. I have a student employee who's a computer science major, and he was like, we could probably automate this even more. And so we are doing EZMA on each individual like object within the collection. And so it still takes some time to go through each compound object within a series. But he just programmed something. It took him like a day. So that it would iteratively go through each object within a series and create those text files. And so now it takes like 30 seconds to do a whole series because we just kind of let it go while we're doing other stuff. So super excited about batch EZMA. We are going to be migrating from Content DM, hopefully the beginning of next year. We still have to find a new DAM, but that's going to happen. And so Content DM, so we're going to need a new EZMA to work with that system. So that will be in the future. Just in conclusion, anyone wanting to use this would need to build a get metadata script, and that's what would harvest the metadata from ArchivesSpace, and then also something that would package that metadata and do the EXIF and things like that. It's not on GitHub yet. I asked my IT department if they would put it on there. I don't know if anyone's interested, but email me if you are interested, because then I can give them more reason why we should put it on GitHub. And I just wanted to say, I'm sure most of you aren't working in the digital lab, but you could talk to your digital lab, whoever puts on the metadata for your digital objects, and see what they're using, if this could be helpful. I'd love to hear from you and hear what other institutions are doing. But overall, I found it to be a very helpful tool and worth any headaches, because it saved us a ton of time. So yeah, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks.
Thanks, Marissa. And again, those slides will be on our wiki, so if you weren't able to grab her email address and you really, really want to see it on GitHub, and I'm sure there are people out there who feel that way, you'll be able to find those slides.